Hey, greetings. Friday morning, everybody. This is August 14th, MLB Rundown. DFSArmy.com sponsors the rundown. I am Choppadong, your host, content creator, contributor, coach extraordinaire at DFSArmy.com. So, of course, I'm going to tell you head to the comments section, sign up for the VIP program. One-stop shopping, all daily fantasy sports covered, coaching, content, tools, everything. You'll be more than happy here if you play a lot of different sports because we make that research time much, much, much faster for you, and I'm about to show you how. I don't think I have a tip at the end of the day today, so we might just have a 5-minute in and out session depending on what other, squirrel type thoughts jump into my brain along the way. So let's dive into the research station. Of course, like, subscribe, the video, everything down there at the bottom, notification bell to send these updates to your phone each and every time we make a video at dfsarmy.com. So let's dive on in. We've got the starting pitching tab here lined up already in the MLB Research Station. MLB Research Station. I knock off that early game since it's not part of the main slate. I sort over here in the chop shop by K score. And we bring all the studs to the top. May have to do it again. Oh, it did it right away. Awesome. 595, 586, 553, 546, 524. These are all good numbers. Anything over 500 is good, but on a day like today where we've got a big slate and a lot of choices, a 506 is not nearly as good as a 586, so we can almost ignore that, to a certain degree. I'm not saying the guy isn't in play, especially if you MME contests, you're going to want shares of almost all of them because baseball is random and volatile and anyone can go off at any given time. But generally speaking, the top of this chart is your stronger matchups. These are strikeout pitchers going up against teams that love to swing and miss. So that stands to reason that we've got ourselves a good matchup for Garrett Cole, Chad Kuhl, Jacob deGrom, Dinelson Lamet, whatever, right? So what we can do is we can cut it off arbitrarily at like 524. Look at these top 5 guys. We can scroll over. We can look for the pricing point. Oh, look at these two guys right down here. Lamet and Woodruff are cheaper than deGrom and Cole. deGrom and Cole are probably safer, let's be honest. But for the $2,000 and almost $3,000 savings, I might take these guys in a more hybrid type build, not a pure cash build. In a pure cash build, I'm going with the chalk. If the chalk's on Garrett Cole, I'll be there. If it's on deGrom, I'll be there. If the chalk is evenly split, say 20% each, then I'm going to probably take the discount, or I'm going to probably look around for what might make a difference somewhere else. If there's rain in the forecast or whatever, these kinds of things will start to break the ties. But generally speaking, I'm looking for high strikeout upside, safety. I'm going to pay up at pitcher on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I have to do a little bit different, but that's going to bring in on those hybrid type lineups, 100-man leagues, small GPPs, whatever. You get a little bit of savings here with another great strikeout matchup. Should it pan out for you, then you're set up to take a couple thousand extra dollars worth of bats that people playing deGrom and Cole can't take. So now I'm not going to go all the way down here to an Odorizzi necessarily. In an MME format, I will, but in a FanDuel format, probably not. I'd have to make probably 10 to 20 lineups before I considered him even once. Frankie Montas, maybe, some of these things, but more often than not, you're going to pay up on FanDuel, at least towards the top. Maybe not all the way to the top, but towards the top, okay? The next thing that I'm going to do is sort this W score by ascending order, and I'm going to push the shit to the bottom of the barrel. We're going to come down here, and we're going to start looking for all of the pinks and the reds. A high W score means that this is a pitcher that gets hit a lot. He gives up a high WOBA against him, WOBA being weighted on base average. Gives that up against him, right? That also compiles a matchup of a team that tends to hit for high WOBA, a high-powered offense, if you will. So when a high-powered offense goes up against a pitcher that tends to get knocked around, we've got quality stacks, right? This is not rocket science, folks. This is about learning how to look through the numbers and look around the numbers, not necessarily look at the numbers. And what we're going to see is these W scores here indicate good matchups for batters, for stacks. So also I'm going to use some of this section in here too. Fly ball percentage, walk per 9, K percentage, home run per 9, whip, walks plus hits per inning pitched, and Sierra, which is basically skill independent ERA. The point is, high Sierras indicate, kind of like FIP and XFIP, that this is what a pitcher's true ERA should be. So if I see high ERAs, high Sierras, I know that the pitcher probably sucks. And he's not going to be a great pitcher, if he goes up against a high WOBA offense, he probably going to get knocked around a little bit, right? So these are tiebreakers. These are other factors I'll add into my process just at a glance. 30 seconds in and out. And I see red across the board here for Kyle Wright. I see a lot of red and pink across the board here for big old Johnny Kickin' Cueto. I see some reds and pinks. I see greens starting to factor in here. So these guys might not be as targetable as these guys down here. So let's call it about the bottom four and maybe a Cueto. And those would be just quickly, without digging any deeper, New York Mets, Houston, Minnesota, Miami, and Oakland would be the stacks that I would be focused on primarily. So now what do? I put that in my head, I write that down. Not saying I'm ignoring these other guys yet. I may change throughout the day. But I come over here to the batting matchups tab. And we knock out that game again. We scroll over to our old friend WOBA score, W score, and we sort it by descending as I've already done. We've got all of the positions lined up, and we see a crap load of Mets up top. Okay, so that's verification that the Mets are in a good spot. It's probably more based on Spencer Howard being a bad pitcher or being a small sample size pitcher, 1 or 2 starts, got rocked, whatever. But the Mets are in a theoretical good spot. Here's one little trick that you can also do. You want to see who's next year, you can scroll down, you can start seeing Houston, LA, Minnesota, whatever, or you can leave it at the top and just take the Mets out of it. Hit the control button, click that Met, boom, out he goes. And now you're left with the rest. You see a couple of Houston, well, I see 4 Houstons. I see 2 LAs. I see 2 Minnesotas. A one-off in Oakland, a Miami one-off, a Chicago one-off, a San Diego one-off, etc. So my next stack might be Houston, which when I wrote things down on the sheet from the pitching tab, Houston was one of the stacks I should be watching. So again, further verification. So turn that back on. We know we should probably be keying on Houston and New York Mets, and we should also be including teams like Minnesota, Miami, Oakland, whatever. And those were all teams at the top of these W scores, which it's not coincidental. I go into the catcher tab, and I look over here at, say, 580 and above in this WOBA score. Maybe, 600, whatever the depth of the position gives me. I can find the arbitrary spots to knock these tiers off. 90, 70, 60, and then 40. Maybe I knock it here, take top 3, Maldonado, Sanchez, Garver. I probably just write down Garver personally and move on. First base, we look again, and we see what's maybe going to be a little bit deeper position. There we go. Some 600s popping in here, so I'd probably take it down to 600, cut it off there. Sorry, 589. Doesn't mean Gurriel's a bad or Moreland are bad matchups or anything. It just means these others are maybe a little bit stronger. So Sano, Freeman, Muncy, Olson, Alonso probably be the guys I target in optimizers to bring in as one-offs in my lineups by spiking their projections a little bit. That's going to tend to make the optimizer look at them more. So if they're not, if I've got a stack of Houston Astros floating around and I've got some money left over at the end of the day, then it's probably going to go grab an expensive Alonso because his projections are higher now because I boosted them. Does that make sense? So I've got a Houston stack and a Miami stack, and then Alonso is a one-off. That's a strong lineup. 658 here, all the way down to 586. Probably just take Altuve. I might throw a Kendrick in there because I know that recently he's kind of running hot. I can come over here to third base, and I can do the same thing. But that was a pretty shallow position. You might focus more on Altuve, even though he hadn't been hitting all that well lately. So that's not so good. Now look at this W score of a 920 for McNeil. That's huge. Yeah, Bregman down here at 730. Bregman would be probably pretty important. Drops off down here to the normal 500s or so in Rendon and beyond. So Bregman, Houston's in a good spot. Bregman's apparently in a good spot. That would be somebody that I would definitely spike in the optimizers and make him pull in quite often as a one-off for me, right? Give me some New York and some Oakland, and then boom, Bregman is a one-off. That would be another strong lineup. Come back over here to the shortstops. 600 drops down a little bit. So Correa, Tatis, of course, should be in there. This is where you look through those numbers. You understand this is a larger sample size, 1920, 2019, 2020. So these guys, a little hot, a little cold, whatever, just had something pop into my mind when I show you the outfielders. We'll do this next, and then we'll get out of here. It just doesn't take long to do a lot of baseball research to put yourself in a pretty good position. And then you can run off to other tools at DFS Army under the MLB tab, like our cheat sheets, our leverage stacks. That's a great tool. Chalkboard shows you where the ownership is headed. And you can make determinations as to how much you want these guys at the top, because everybody should be seeing it. Dominic Smith, Conforto, Nemo, boom, outfield, Mets, done. Now, we've got Billy Hamilton, who isn't even on the Major League roster to my knowledge. He didn't make it coming out of camp earlier this year. Bellinger, Dickerson, Yelich, Springer, Soto, Davis, Cruz, Happ, all the way down to probably Ian Happ, 592. You're at 600 and above, basically. You want to throw a Kepler in there or an Aaron Judge if he starts in there? Fine, do it. I mean, there are double dongs waiting to happen too. But this is generally the best matchups on the slate today. Okay, we know baseball's random. It won't always go off, but when it does, a lot of times it's going to be from these lists. Now, I go into the Trends tab. I haven't shown you this for a little while. This is what I used to do. I would go to the Trends tab. I would take the L7 WOBA, and I would sort it in descending order. L7 WOBA is last 7 games. Who is hitting for the highest WOBA? Weighted on base average. Over 400 is elite. On a small sample size like 7 days, you are going to get some astronomical WOBAs. All I'm ever hoping for is that these guys hold on for one more day. Give me my day today, daily fantasy sports. Give me my day today, and I'll reevaluate tomorrow. Hold on to your hot streak one more day. Sometimes hot streaks last 2 games. Sometimes they last 2 weeks. We don't know. This is another thing you could do. You could filter this out by plate appearances. See these guys that only have 4 plate appearances up top? They're not starting very often. So early in the day, I might not want those guys in my lineups, or at least boosting them in optimizers, because they might not even make the starting lineup. And it's a very, very small sample size at that. So if I arbitrarily filter it to 20 or 25 or something like that, I'm generally 3 at-bats per day, 7 days, 20, 21 at-bats, right? This is a guy who should generally be starting. So I look at these guys now, and I've got Winker. Okay, if you're not on Winker, you're missing the boat, man. I mean, the dude's been ripping the cover off the ball. McBroom, Grossman, Blackman MVP candidate right now. Slater, if he's not hurt. Jason Hayward popping in there all of a sudden. Juan Soto. These are guys that you can also boost in the optimizers that would bring the hot hitters in the league up to the top of your lineups. These guys could be cheap one-offs. They could be expensive one-offs. They could be parts of your stacks. The optimizer is probably going to do a decent job of pulling them in for you anyway. But just in case it's not, you boost their projections. Why? When you boost their projections and you use a little bit of randomization in the optimizer, you're going to lift these guys higher than they should be lifted, so it's still going to give you more exposure to them. From there, I let the optimizer do the work. I may come back later, do an optimizer video. I don't know. There are a couple of different ways to set up our optimizer that are kind of fun to play with. If you're running 20, 50, 100, 150 lineups, by all means, go for it. Learn on the cheap, play the nickels, play the dimes, whatever. Don't expect big money out of those contests, but learn on the cheap if you like the MME format like I do, because it allows me to take pieces of everything and allows me to basically do whatever I want with stacks and lots of different teams and lots of different stuff and hope something hits that night. I love playing baseball this way. I'm not as much a cash game guy anymore, but if I did, I would be using our chalkboard and whatnot. But I can use these optimizers and play with them, and then I can coach you on how to set them up for yourself. So if this is the type of information that you want, this is the type of research you want to do, this is the type of fast research you want to do so that you can play different sports, dfsarmy.com. I'm your buddy Chop, CHOP, 20% off discount. Like, subscribe the video while you're down there. It's Friday, it's Paycheck Friday. Get in here, become a member today, and let's rock and roll tonight. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you, I guess, on Monday or Tuesday. Later.